Okay, guys, welcome to Hyde Park. And if you're a tourist, welcome to London. You're in for an experience. If you walk around here today, you're going to see a lot of different opinions, a lot of different views, a lot of different ideas about usually something to do with the meaning of life and what it's all about. And obviously I've got my perspective and my view. And what I want to talk about today is what is the essence of life? What is the source of our being? What is our origin, not just in the past, but in the present? What is the true source of who we are? The thing is, when we look around us in the world today, there's no doubt that there's something not working. There's something that isn't really functioning correctly. There's a lot of brokenness. There's a lot of hurting people. A lot of hurting people, and I would say people with broken hearts. And the one thing that this world, what's the one thing that people are looking for? And I would say it's satisfaction. They want to satisfy broken hearts. They want to satisfy a deep longing that exists within them. And what do they do to try and satisfy this longing? Where do they go? Well, the first place that most people go to is the things around them, relationships, the material things around them, and they try to draw satisfaction from the things they see around them. And there isn't anything wrong with that in a sense, because we have to interact with the world around us. But can we truly get satisfaction from the things we see around us, external to ourselves? Or is there something deeper within us? Is there a place within us where we can find satisfaction deep in our inner beings? And what I want to talk about is going beyond the external things we see, going beyond the conditioning that this world teaches us and tells us this world basically tells us who we are through external things. That's where we get our identity. Who are you? What are you? Everyone has an identity. You have an identity. I have an identity. Some people identify themselves as Muslims. Some people identify themselves as Christians. Some people black, some people white, some people human. There's all sorts of different ideas. But our identity, brothers and sisters, is all the same. We all have the same identity and the same source of life. No matter what our opinion is about that. You may have a different opinion or a different view on what life is all about than I do, but the one thing that is constant between us is the reality of the source of life. You breathe air just like I do. You have red blood cells just like I have. So we must have a deeper sense of who we are. And how do we get to the true source of who we are? And what is the true source of our being? The problem is, because we try to find satisfaction in the things around us, it somehow disconnects us from the source of our true being. The things around us teach us to condition our identity to what is around us in the external world. So, for example, if I'll get my identity from being British and the whole cultural scene, or if I get my identity from being Muslim. But these are two different ideas. A British culture, or a Christian culture, or a Christian person and a Muslim person, two totally different identities, two different ideas, two different cultures, which people draw their identities from. But is that just a conditioning, a conditioned identity, or are those true identities? What I want to talk about is how you can go beyond what the world tells you you are, what society tells you you are, and go to the quintessential essence of who you are. It's almost like we need to peel back the layers of our consciousness and go to the deepest part of our being.
That's what Buddhists say, right?
I don't know.
Well, that's what Buddhists say. Full of yourself.
Okay. I haven't read anything about Buddha, but this is what I think anyway. So anyway, we want to get past the outer conditioning of who we are and get to the source of our life, our true life. But how do we do that? Because this world, in essence, is in bondage, in captivity to the superficial. Is there anything wrong with things or material things? Of course not. We all need to eat. We all need relationships. We all need to socialize. But can we draw our identity and our fullest sense of satisfaction from things that are external to us? And in my experience, I would say no, we can't. Because certainly I've tried to find satisfaction in things around me. And what I have discovered is that there's true satisfaction when you go deep within yourself and discover something that's common to all of us, our spirit. Deep within you, there's a center, a core. And in your core, that is unchanged. It doesn't matter what my opinion is of my core. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. We all have the same core. The problem is our minds have been conditioned by the society around us, which has tried to impose on us its identity. And therefore we take on the identity that the society or the culture tells us we are, and then we start to impose it on others.
One-way street. We create the cultures, not just impose.
Yes, of course, that's what I'm kind of saying, or attempting to say.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, of course.
Two-way street.
Of course, yeah. I value your input. But yeah, so we actually draw our identity from this culture, from the society around us. But what we find, if we're really honest, ultimately drawing our identity from things around us, from the external world, it doesn't really bring true satisfaction. It doesn't satisfy the depth of our hearts. And many of you may remember the song by Mick Jagger, the old song, "I can't find no satisfaction, but I try, and I try, and I try, but I can't find no satisfaction." So where can we find our truest sense of satisfaction? What is the truest essence? What will truly satisfy us? If I have more money, will I be more satisfied? I may be more comfortable with some things, but it certainly can't buy me love. And I would say love, divine love, there is a human kind of love, obviously. We all love each other, but love in a sense sometimes can be a bit selfish. There must be a higher form of love, a quintessential essence of love, which goes beyond anything else that we kind of experience. And when we experience this divine love, this divine essence, we're connecting with our true selves, the deepest part of our being, the true essence of who we are. And that's where we find true satisfaction. Now, don't hear me wrong. I don't subscribe to any particular religious group. I don't go to church. I don't believe really in organized religion. But I do believe in this particular quote from the Bible, which says, God is love. And perfect love drives out all fear. And that is the essence of what God is. God is love, unconditional love without fear. God drives out fear. That's one of the biggest problems with mankind, fear. People live in an essence, in a mindset of fear in order to try and survive. The survival instinct to get their needs met. And in this survival instinct to get our needs met, we end up in war and in conflict because we're operating on a basis of selfishness. But if you understand true love, you don't need to operate on a basis of being selfish in order to survive, because you realize that you've got the source of all life within you, which means you can be a super generous person and you're not going to be living with a sense of fear and lack. The reason there's wars is because people fear. They fear each other, they fear lack, and they want to try to take things to gain more. But in this sense of taking things and trying to gain more, they end up in conflict because they're trying to demand from each other, steal from each other, and take from each other. But if you've got a sense of love, divine love, and you've experienced divine love, you've got a sense of fullness and completeness and wholeness. And you don't have fear within you, because perfect fear extinguishes love. Perfect love extinguishes fear. Perfect love drives out all fear. And behind the whole fabric of the universe, behind the veneer of what we can see with our physical eyes, there is a substance, there is a being of love. We all instinctively know that it exists. But because of our fear, we don't know how to connect with this love that exists in all things and in all places. But when you learn to connect with divine, pure, unconditional love, that's what you start to project. Because really, we are projectors of what we contain within ourselves. And if we contain fear, we project fear. Even if there's a little bit of fear inside you, you will ultimately project that, and that will tend to produce conflict in your life, because fear really is a projection of your mindset of lack. You feel you lack something and you're in a sense of fear, therefore you try to fulfill and satisfy that lack. So the world is looking for satisfaction, but I'm here to tell you that divine love is a true reality behind the fabric of everything. Every single person here is loved, no matter what their belief system. Whether you're Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, atheist, you are loved. Love exists, and love will satisfy you and bring you into wholeness. Love will complete you, because love is your right. You can experience love. Everyone can experience divine love. Everyone can experience the pure essence and source of who they are. You can experience love. It's not about being highly intellectual and winning an argument. It's not about having loads of information. Love is an experience. You can experience divine love because love exists everywhere. The only thing that separates us from this divine love is our mindsets, the ideas that we have in our high heads, which are based on fear. Therefore, we think we're separate from love. We think we're separate from the source of love. Therefore, we try to fulfill ourselves, and in this trying to fulfill ourselves, and in trying to fulfill this sense of lack, we end up in some kind of conflict, because what we're trying to do is fulfill something that isn't actually real. The truth is, you are unconditionally loved in fullness, and that's true for everyone. Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, atheist, no matter what, there is a presence of love. You want to speak?
Satanists.
Satanists, they're loved as well, absolutely, unconditionally, no hold barred. God loves them completely, and God doesn't have a problem with them. So that's the reality of it. But anyone who's got a sort of a religious mindset will divide. Religious people are operating in a sense of fear. They maybe talk about love, but they still got this fear-based mindset, which is based on lack. And they try to fulfill that lack by trying to impose their ideas, or impose their belief system, should I say, on other people. Listen, us as human beings do have belief systems, but if your belief system is based on reality, which I'm going to be a little bit dogmatic here, I'd say true reality is unconditional love. That's true reality. That's something to believe in, that you are loved completely, wholly, and that's a real reality, and it exists in all places. So no matter what your background is, maybe you've come from a broken background, which many of us have, you're loved. You can experience having a whole heart again, a heart that is healed, a heart that is complete. You don't need to join some sort of religious organization. The love, the divine love of God, the divine essence is everywhere.
What's the practice? That's the theory. What's the practice?
I would say the practice to experience divine love practically, first of all, the first thing you need to be aware of it, that it exists. And I would say everyone instinctively does, but sometimes people need a little bit of help. through the communication of others. So I certainly got help by hearing from another person that this existed. When I heard it, I kind of recognized within myself that I already knew it. And then I connect. So when you become when your awareness or your consciousness is kind of raised up a little higher, and it starts to expand, and you get quiet within yourself, and you start to realize that this maybe does exist, then your own communication and your own intention to connect is really all that's needed. There is really no complicated practice or thing that we just need to want it really and realize it's there. And yes, you can actually give voice to it and say, I want this love, I want to experience this. That's really...
Have experiences of that, don't they?
Yeah.
They have very high experiences of love, unconditional flowing through.
Yes, and I've had those experiences multiple times.
They would say they would use the term opening up the heart.
Exactly. And somehow, because divine love already exists, whether we've got an open heart or a closed heart, the divine love of God is drawing all humanity, and sometimes He helps us to open our hearts. And once we kind of get a revelation or get an unveiling within our own mind, where the curtain of our mind is sort of pulled back and we begin to see love, our hearts will naturally open. It's like a flower in the sun. The sun opens the flower opens when the sun rises. It just opens automatically because it's built for the light. And our hearts are built for divine light, for divine love. And once we see that, and once each of us become emitters and projectors of this love, once we get free from the fear. So my experience is, as I project this love, and I'll be honest, I still obviously have a little bit of fear in my own consciousness as I'm grasping within myself to experience more of this, but as I project more love, I see people experience this love and their hearts open. Their hearts just open like flowers, because divine love really is something that exists, just like the sun exists. Divine love exists.
Is it union?
Union. Perfect word. Absolutely, union. We're all in. The reality is we are all in union with divine love, whether we experience it or not. It's just the unveiling of our consciousness. And when we see it, the inner being opens up. And it's automatic. It just opens up like a flower in the sun. It's so easy. It isn't meant to be hard. It isn't meant to be difficult. Experiencing divine love, experiencing the true source of our being is not meant to be difficult. It's not meant to be a complicated thing. It's meant to be an easy thing. It's meant to be something that this little child can experience. She doesn't need to have a huge intellect. She can experience divine love. An old person can experience divine love. A stupid person, no intellect, not intellectual, or an intellectual person. It's all got to do with the recognition of its existence. There are certain constants in the universe. For example, in the physical laws of the universe, there's gravity and various other constants. But in the spiritual reality, there's also constants which are not subject to opinion. And one of those constants is divine love. Divine unconditional love is one of the true constants of the universe, which exists within us all, through all things, and in all things. Pure, divine love. So I want to tell you, brothers and sisters, that you can experience true satisfaction. You can experience true love. You can experience having a whole heart. Just open yourself up and say, yes, I want to experience divine love. I want to experience the true essence of God beyond just religious arguments and religious intellectualism. You can experience divine love no matter what your background, what you believe, because it's true for everyone. Anyone who doesn't recognize the reality of love is living in a sort of a broken mindset, a broken world, which will end in fault and pain and emptiness. But true love will give you fullness of heart, fullness of being, a full sense of who you are and what you are. And when you experience this love, that's where your true source of happiness is. And everyone has this true source of happiness within them. Everyone has this true sense of love within them. But this love goes beyond just what's inside you. It fills up everything. Everyone is in union with this love. All that needs to happen is our minds need to be unveiled. It's almost like the curtain of our natural mind, which is blinding us to this reality, needs to be set aside. And when it's set aside, yes, we come into fulfillment, we come into wholeness, we come into completeness, and our hearts are whole. That's it. That's all I'd like to say today, guys. Thank you for listening.
What is the role of prayer?
What's the role of prayer? Prayer is communication. Prayer is communication, where you speak either silently or you actually verbalize what you think or what you're feeling in the depths of your being. And it's also listening to the divine love that exists. So it's a two-way, it's communication and being real about what you're sensing within yourself. And that's really how we connect with love. It's prayer. But it's communication. True communication of what's happening within us.
Do you believe that Satan is a real person?
Do I believe that Satan is a real person? Okay. I'm not going to ask you where you come from or what you're doing. But let me just say, I have read the Bible, okay? But I've studied it very deeply. And the stories about what they say Satan is not as it appears in a literal sense. For example, many people say that Lucifer is Satan. Have you heard that term before? Lucifer. Do you know what the word Lucifer is? It's a Latin word. It's not a Hebrew word. And the word Lucifer means shining one or bright star. You know, Jesus is referred to as the bright morning star. So, who's Lucifer? Is it Jesus? See, if you look in the original languages, in the scriptures, in the Bible, you actually discover something that sort of traditional religion doesn't promote. You discover what's actually being said. Lucifer, really, in the sense of what the scripture's talking about in the Old Testament, would really be the first Adam. Because the first Adam was a bright man made of light, Adam, and he fell. So what is Satan? Well, Satan is referred to in the pictorial language of the book of Genesis as a serpent. And it says he was more crafty than all the other beasts of the field. Now, does that mean he's a literal snake? Or does that mean, is it a metaphor for something else? Is Satan a metaphor? But your question was, is he a literal person? I haven't forgotten. I'm just trying to, so, is Satan a literal person? In some senses, yes. In some senses, no. It's kind of one of these paradoxical questions. That's yes and no. Is there corrupt life beyond the physical body? Yes. There's corruption. Corruption exists. There is such a thing as lies. I can tell lies. I could be a con man easily. Yeah? So because I've got the ability, I'm a real person. So
This is Satan, the initiator. Did he be seen as the initiator, the one who tests, push the back to God?
yes,
I mean, he's
all
the force, right?
yes,
So, that's the initiator perspective of Satan.
yes. Well, my friend here asked me, is Satan a real person?
Yeah, I know.
And but I tend to look at these things as more. A lot of them, I don't tend to look at these things in a sort of a literal sense. I try to find the actual meaning of what they actually mean. And usually there's some great meaning behind it or some deep meaning. But it says that Satan was crafty and he lied. So lies definitely exist. People can lie. I'm a real person. I could lie. So could Satan be a real person? Well, he could be me. Well, that's not the bait. He asked me a question, but that's not really what I've been talking about. But it has been for the past 2 minutes.
Maybe you got the loose end of it. So what is the main overarching thing?
What I'm really talking about is unconditional love. That everyone has an identity. Everyone has a true identity, a true self. But in this world, we end up having an imposed, conditioned identity placed on us. And because we have this imposed, conditioned identity placed on us, it tends to separate us from a conscious awareness of pure divine love. That's the essence. So, yeah.
This isn't anything to do with you.
No, I just put the thing on. I don't know what this is.
That's Islam.
Is it? Oh, I don't
People
know.
think you're Islamic.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Well, I don't really mind, to be honest. But anyway.
Looking at you and reading that.
Yeah, I see them reading it, yeah. I never actually read it. But anyway.
Some English people that apparently say something.
So, yes. So, yeah, that's it. I hope that answered your question as best as. But God loves. There is such a thing as love. That's the most important thing. And don't listen to I would say Satan is lying through the culture, if you want to say, and through society, telling us and trying to separate us in our consciousness from pure love.
The Gnostic Christians they recognise that Jehovah was Satan. They thought that the God of the Jews and the Christians was actually the devil because he kept people in servitude. They couldn't find a God within themselves or the divine.
Yes.
So they called him the demiurge, or
Right.
the false God.
Right, yes.
Right?
Yes,
Like
definitely.
God, the slave God who kept everyone. But yeah, the Gnostics are interesting.
They did,
They're
but-
much more on your Trinity.
Okay, another question.
Who is His Majesty, King Jesus Christ?
Who is His Majesty King Jesus Christ?
For he is a king.
Okay.
Savior,
Okay.
and God.
Okay, well, he'd be exactly the same. What Jesus did was he manifested pure divine love. And the essence of dying and resurrection on the cross, what did Jesus do when he died? He identified with our corrupt disidentification. See, God was always love. Thank you. God has always been love. But because we separated in our consciousness, we needed a demonstration of love. So God showed us in Jesus Christ himself that he is love by displaying his unconditional love in dying for us, identifying with our own brokenness and corruption, and then destroying it and rising from the dead. So Jesus Christ is the Savior. He's the demonstrator of the pure love of God.
You know, His Majesty, King Jesus Christ said, I saw Satan falling down as a lightning from heaven.
Yeah.
Can we assume that he believed that Satan was a real person when he said, I saw Satan falling down from heaven?
Yeah, you could, if you believe Satan's a real person, that's okay. You know, Satan has got no power, obviously, real person or not. It's irrelevant. It's what you believe about the pure love of God demonstrated in Jesus Christ. That's what's important. Satan is a non-entity, really. He may have been an entity, but right now he's a zero with the rim knocked off. He's got no power. He's got no true ability. God has got the power. Jesus said, all power in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Behold, I was dead, now I'm alive forevermore. I hold the keys of death and Hades. Jesus Christ is King. Or do you believe that Satan has got some sort of power over Jesus Christ? He hasn't. So if you know the love of God, if you're living in a corrupt mindset, yeah, you're living in the power of lies. But when you come into the love of God, you realize that God's power is way more powerful. Grace is the true superpower in the earth. God's love is the true superpower. Jesus is the true superpower. And when you realize this, then you get set free from religious lies that oppress you. And you begin to experience the love of God.
In the Gospel of John, it says that His Majesty, or King and God, Jesus said that Satan is the ruler of this world. John 14. What do you believe about that? What is he?
He's the ruler of the world in terms of the superficial. but he's not the ruler of the heavens. It says that we're seated with Christ in the heavenly places. And if you understand reality, which is Christ, he is in all things and through all things, then Satan has no power. But if you're living in a fear-based mindset, yes, he's got power over you. Because fear has got to do with torment and punishment. But when you experience true love, fear has no power over you. Divine love, unconditional love, frees you from fear, produces life and confidence within you, and wholeness and satisfaction. We all need love. In particular, we need divine love, pure love, right? But if you're living in a fear-based mindset, which would be Satan, yeah, you're going to experience the control. Fear is a power which will control you. This world is controlled by fear and self-preservation. So I'm living in a sense of, if I live in a sense of fear, I'm trying to get my needs met through grasping, and ultimately that will end in war. I'm talking on a national scale, where people try to meet their needs through fear because they fear they lack. But when you experience true divine love, you have a sense of fullness and completeness within your heart, within your being, and it also makes you a super generous person, where you can be affectionate, you can take your friend for a meal, you aren't going to get into a fight if you're, over a bit of cash. This world fights over money. That's what all war is about, money. That's it. And the fear of lacking money. But when you experience divine love, you experience fullness and completeness and a satisfied heart. Therefore, you can love, you can be generous. You can be generous to people who are different from you and a different culture. You don't need to fear them. So love is really the essence of what life's about. And God is love, pure love. God doesn't fear. God doesn't fear because everyone's different, got different belief systems or different ideas. We can love. That's divine love.
Muslims, many Christians, and
Oh, this isn't mine, by the way, guys. I don't know what this is. Anyway.
Muslims, Christians, Catholics believe in the eternal conscience torment of the wicked.
Right.
Do you share?
No, I don't share that there'll be any conscious torment, eternal. And even when you say Christians, there's many different things in the Greek and the Hebrew. It doesn't say eternal conscious torment. If you look in the original languages, what it says is correction of the wicked. It doesn't say, if God is love, why would he torment people forever? That's a ridiculous idea. It's just ridiculous. It's just not true. God doesn't burn people forever. People may pay for their wrongdoing, yes, but people are not going to be burnt forever. That is ridiculous. What?
How much does the wrongdoing cost?
I'm sure the punishment will meet the crime, but even if I'm the most wicked human being, being burnt forever is not an equal kind of, okay, maybe burnt for 100 years, maybe, I don't know. But I tell you what, if you took your worst enemy, yeah, well, I don't know, maybe let's say he's the worst guy you've ever met. And you locked him in a basement, and right, you're gonna get even. After sort of blowtorching him for a couple of hours, you might get bored, right? You'd start to think, but the idea that God is this sort of, he loves you, but if you don't believe the way he wants you to believe, then he'll torture you forever. No. And the Bible doesn't actually teach that. If you look in the original Greek and Hebrew, it just doesn't teach that. So, yes. Hope that answers your questions. Thank you. Okay. Yes, he does. It says that God is love. In the Bible, God is love, and perfect love drives out all fear, because fear has to do with punishment. But that's the one thing that people don't know about or experience, is pure divine love. All religions, they have fear in them, and not even atheists have fear in them. People have fear within their consciousness, but God is pure love. That's the one thing this world lacks, big time. An understanding and a grasp of pure divine love. So, I hope that helps. But I gotta go, I gotta stop. Thank you.